I have prepared a talk. Initially, my thought was to discuss about differentiating merits from parami, since yesterday we were talking about supporting aging in place and aging and so on. And then I changed my mind. I wanted to make it more related to the Buddha's teachings, more Dhamma, less worldly, more Dhamma. And so I changed my slides just a few days ago, and now it is very long. But then again, who knows, you know? So maybe you enjoy it, maybe you will find it boring, and then you go into your anapanasati or other meditation, which is also very good, you know. And then if it ends up that I finish early, we can still have some time to discuss. I understand some people here could have been here to learn more about aging and health and all that. So we can also discuss about it if we have time. Okay. So I have a lot of animation, so I will need you to click as I click. So ever wonder? Yeah, yeah, maybe you click it over there. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. You see, my own experience is if I have a slide with a lot of words, the audience will have to read and listen to the speaker at the same time, and it's very difficult to pay attention. So I usually make use of animation functions. So it's like line by line or paragraph by paragraph. Then people can follow. It is easier. So that's what I'm doing now. Okay, it's not clicking, but so we would like to know that why do we have, I mean, have you ever thought about this? Why do we have different kinds of destinies and fortunes among the people that we see? You know, some people suffer from cancer very young. Some people have a stroke, you know, someone have a heart attack at age 20 over. There's a doctor who had a heart attack in the ward. And some people are born so wealthy, don't have to worry anything about money. Some people, when they are very young, they are separated from their parents. So why do people have different kinds of destinies and fortunes? Why are there different kinds of people with different personalities and preferences? Why are there people who naturally have faith in the triple gem while others do not? Why I changed my slides, because I hear that many of you are missionaries, and then surely you'll be frustrated. Why is Dhamma so good? How come these persons just don't believe? Or and all that. Why some of us make fast progress or some of us make very slow progress? Some people, you know, when they meditate very easily, they can calm down, they can experience the joy of jhana, and then when they see vipassana, it's very, very easy, you know. And some people are very hard. For years, they've been a monk, and then always having aches and pains, and then think that it's just the stomach, maybe it's the food, no progress. Why? And then, oops. Why are some enlightened beings behaving like monkeys? This actually is a story of Venerable Sariputta. Someone offered him house dana, right? Then he was walking, and then there was a puddle of water, and he jumped across. And immediately the donor's mind is like, gosh, what kind of monk is that? Then he think I should offer less. Then later, as they walk and come across another puddle, Venerable Sariputta walk mindfully across. They said, huh, how come this time he doesn't jump? He just walk mindfully. Then he asked the Venerable say, if I jump again, I will have even less to eat. Only later that during the discussion, he was saying that these are habits from the past, you know. How do we apply this understanding in making the best of our lives? And what is dukkha? How does it arise? And what is no dukkha? and how do we make an end of it? Okay, so this ever wondering why, maybe I can call it critical thinking. The critical thinking function, the curiosity and asking questions, I somehow feel that it's related to wisdom. Wisdom is not about the amount of things that you know, but it's that penetrative inquiry. And maybe because of this penetrative inquiry, we have got science, humanities, social science, psychological science, economics, politics, political science, the understanding of how things work. And yesterday we were discussing about aging. Only when you can penetratively understand the stress that this person is going through, only then can you begin to know how to start to help. So the understanding of the mechanism, the whys, is very important for our development, at least in my opinion, of wisdom. Why do we have different kinds of destinies and fortunes? So this part is the relatively easy to understand, but of course the theory is one thing, but really seeing it is something else. Okay. So this is from the Chula Kamma Vibhanga Sutta. There was a Brahmin layperson who asked Venerable, asked the Buddha, Master Gautama, what is the cause and condition why human beings are seen to be inferior and superior? For people are seen to be short-lived and long-lived, sickly and healthy, ugly and beautiful, uninfluential and influential, poor and wealthy, low-born and high-born, stupid and wise. What is the cause and condition, Master Gautama, why human beings are seen to be inferior and superior? Okay. Students, beings are owners of their karmas. So Bhikkhu Bodhi translate karma as actions. I use his translation. As of their karma, they originate from their actions and are bound to their actions, have their actions as their refuge. It is action, karma, that distinguishes beings as inferior and superior. Then the Buddha gave deeper discourse when the Brahmin asks, what do you mean? Can you elaborate? The Buddha says, here, student, some man or woman kills living beings and is murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. Because of performing and undertaking such action, on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. But if on the dissolution of the body after death, he does not reappear in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, in hell, but instead comes back to the human state, then wherever he is reborn, he is short-lived. So whether you kill or not, and what is the condition of a person with long life? But here, student, some man or woman abandoning the killing of living beings abstains from killing living beings with rod and weapon laid aside, gentle and kindly. He abides compassionate to all living beings. Because of performing and undertaking such action on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. But if on the dissolution of the body after death, he does not reappear in a happy destination in the heavenly world, but instead comes back to the human state, then wherever he is reborn, he is long-lived. For the rest of the quality, I will summarize. Why are some people sickly, some people healthy? And the cause is karma related to injuring beings with hand, with clod, with stick, or with a knife. And the corollary of how a person can be so healthy is because this person abstain from injuring beings. How is a human born with such good fortune as being born beautiful or misfortune of being born ugly? If you are of an angry irritable character. Even when criticized a little, he's offended, becomes angry, hostile, resentful, and displays anger, hate, and bitterness. Then, if upon your death, if this were to ripen in your last thought moment, you can be reborn in the lower realms, ghosts, and so on. But then again, the working of karma is not always so predictable. Depends on the so many things that we do. If by chance that you're born, the last thought moment was a good karma ripening, you're born as a human, but because of the karma of being angry, irritable, this human being is born ugly. Okay? Uninfluential and influential, the cause is whether are you envious, resents and begrudges others' gains, honors. But the opposite of it, if it is true, we rejoice at people's happiness, fortune, then we'll become influential if we are reborn again as a human. Poor and wealthy, that's related to the habit of dana, or the opposite of being stingy. Low-born and high-born is related to your attitude of being obstinate, arrogant, do not pay homage to those who should receive homage, do not rise up for those whose presence we should rise up. We do not offer seat to one who deserves seat, does not make way for one whom we should make way, and does not honor, respect, revere, and venerate one who should be honored, respected, revered, and venerated. Then if you're reborn as a human again, for this karma, you can be reborn as somebody from a lower social economic state. Social status is still very strong in India. Even in UK, in Malaysia, Singapore, maybe not so, but you can still have that sometimes. So I suppose our culture of always Anjali, Sukihontu is very helpful for us in the future lives. Stupid and wise. So that is the question that I raised. Ever wonder this is this, see a venerable, we ask, if you have a habit of doing that, the next life you'll be born naturally intelligent. If you do not have that kind of habit, whatever you're given, you just accept it and you mentally lazy, Okay, let's see what the Buddha say. Does not visit a recluse or a Brahmin and ask, Venerable Sir, what is wholesome? What is unwholesome? What is blamable? What is blameless? What should be cultivated? What should not be cultivated? What kind of action will lead to my harm and suffering for a long time? What kind of action will lead to my wealth and happiness for a long time? If you don't do that, next life, if you're born as a human, your IQ is not very high. But if you laterally ask this kind of question related to morality, related to spiritual practice, what is the right thing to do? You question about this. Is it right to, using examples of yesterday, yesterday before my talk on aging, I was giving a webinar in the Home Nursing Foundation to all the healthcare workers. The topic was about nasogastric tube insertion. It was a dietitian talking about how to take care of somebody with nasogastric tube and what's the diet. But I have to put in another lecture about when do we insert and what kind of considerations we need to consider when the evidence has it that nasogastric tube feeding for people with advanced dementia, extreme frailty, does not prolong life, does not improve quality of life, does not improve healing of wounds. The only thing it does is the painful insertion every month. So we have to have critical thinking, even in doing day-to-day things. So I hope I'll be reborn as if I were to be a human, it'll be an intelligent one. Yeah. Okay. Let's go into the other questions, which are all very interesting. I hope you think they are interesting. What are there different kinds of people? Some people, they have a certain style. They like to dress in a certain way, or they have different kinds of personalities. They don't like you to talk to them about Dhamma, but they like to do dana, okay? Or some of them, they don't like to sit down in meditation, or maybe they don't like anapanasati, they like other kinds of meditation. So why are there different personalities and different preferences? And why are there people who naturally have faith? When you just tell them the triple gem and then they immediately have tears because they have got so much joy. It's as if like, hey, I've been looking for this for all my life. But yet there are some people listen to Dhamma, they don't find it interesting. And then when you tell them to bye, oh, they like it, or some other kind of teachings, and they take to it easily. Then why are there some of us who progress fast and some slow? And why are there enlightened beings who behave like monkeys? So I'll tell you a story about the 5 laymen. This comes from the Dhammapada. Okay, it comes from this Dhammapada verse 251. There is no fire like lust, no captor like aversion. Unequaled is delusion's net, no river like craving. So those with thinking will want to explore what is the meaning behind this stanza. If you look at the stanza like this, you would, if your mind is lazy, you say, yeah lah, no fire like lust, no capital aversion. But if those who like to explore more, they like to read the ancient commentaries related to this particular Dhammapada. And the commentary talk about the context, why the Buddha talked about this. There was once the Buddha was in, if I remember correctly, Savatthi, Jetavana Monastery. He was giving a Dhamma talk. There were 5 laymen sitting down there. Ananda was next to him. And one of the laymen, as the Buddha was giving the Dhamma teaching, one of them was sleeping. Another one was using his finger and digging the earth. Maybe some of us are watching, reading our handphone as I'm speaking. Then there's one of them who kept tugging at the tree next to him. And then yet another one was looking at the sky. Only one of them was sitting in front, listening attentively. So Venerable Ananda, so much respect for the Buddha, felt indignant, how could anyone not pay attention to the Buddha, okay? So later after the talk, so the Venerable Ananda asked the Buddha, when the Buddha gave a Dhamma talk, it's as if the celestial stars are brought down to the human realm and explained to them, why are there people who could sleep, who could dig the earth, who could play with a tree and could be watching the sky, not paying attention? And the Buddha says, you obviously do not know. The guy who was sleeping for 500 thousands or don't know how many lives have been a snake, always caught up and sleeping. The guy who is digging the earth for 500,000 lives has always been an earthworm. The guy who is playing with a tree for 500,000 lives had been a monkey. And that person who is always watching the stars for 500,000 lives have always been born as an astrologer. The whole life, the career somehow fall into astrologer, always an astrologer. The person who is there attentively listening for 500,000 lives had been a Brahmin who is very studious and studying the Vedas in all these lives. So at the end of the Dhamma talk, this guy at the center became a Sotapanna. But anyway, after he explained these 500 lives, and then Ananda asked him, even so, it is so rare for beings to hear the Dhamma. How could they still be like that? And the Buddha explained, there is no fire like lust. It is because of lust, aversion, delusion, craving that create this net that the beings are always reborn and reborn in the habitual position that they are as a snake for so many lives. And because of that, even now that they are in front of the Buddha, they could not pay attention to the Buddha's teachings. So those of you who try to share the Dhamma to your parents and they are not interested, well, even the Buddha himself. Okay. So with this story, I like to explain the 4 things, the 4 questions that I posed you. We need to understand conditionality. Conditionality means dependent origination. Because of this, that happens. But there are 2 approaches to understand this. The traditional way we understand is this first version. What are the conditions that result in what are the conditioned state? For example, when a person is born as a human, what's the cause of it? it is because of good karma, okay? And rooted in, of course, ignorance and craving. Because of good karma, reborn as a human. Why is this human long life? Because in the past lives, don't know which one, or for many, the character has been one who is non-harming, non-violent, doesn't kill. So this human has a long life. So this is condition and the conditioned state. But there's another way to understand it, which is the method 2. It's described in the Abhidhamma in the book called Patthana. So when I first learned this from Sayadaw U Silananda many years ago, he was in Singapore giving a series of lecture. This is a part that's most confusing. I listen, ayo, cannot understand. It's so long-winded, so many things. Just like the maybe one of those 5 laymen, no? When Sayadaw was teaching, I'm like, oh God, so cannot stand. But now this is the part that's most interesting. When I learn more after these 20 years, really, this is really very interesting. So I hope um, I, I can share. So one way is to understand conditions and the conditioned state. But another method from the Abhidhamma is how does this condition lead to this conditional state? What manner? And all in all, there are 24 manner. The 24 conditionalities. I will not go through these 24. To understand them deeply, you need to understand how our 5 aggregates can be broken down into its constituent components and how they relate to one another. So this one is a lot of detailed discussion. So I will just say that after going through the lecture on each one and the examples from how the 4 elements, fire, water, and wind, they are co-nascence, supporting, pre-nascence, post-nascence. After going through all that, the Abhidhamma Tasangaha, the book that Sayadaw U Silananda used, further summarize all these 24 conditions can be summarized into the big 4. So it's Aramana Pachayo, object condition, decisive support, Upanisaya Pachayo, Kamma Pachayo, and presence Pachayo. So because all of them you can use all the 5 aggregates, and if you expand 5 aggregates, is the 12 ayatanas, the 18 dhatus, if you study Xin Jing, yi se shen xiang wei chu fa, yan jie wu yi shi jie, all these are all the various rendition of nama rupa, mind, matter. Matter is matter, but it can divide further into earth, water, fire, and wind, and the derived components of color, smell, taste, and so on. And then nama, mind, can be divided into feeling, perception, volitional formations, and vijnana, consciousness. And if you divide further, all these can be divided into 12. I object, I consciousness, altogether. I object and I consciousness altogether, and mind object and mind consciousness altogether, there are 12. That's 12 ayatanas. So anyway, there is a lot to talk about this. But if we go back to what I want to talk about, if you understand them, all of them are linked by conditional phenomenon. These are the conditioning manners of conditioning, and they can be summarized into these 4. While most of them are related to the 5 aggregates, past, present, future, linking to one another, decisive support also linked with concepts. Concepts are conventions. Certain conventions lead to other conventions. Certain concepts lead to other concepts. And it can also influence the ultimate realities of the aggregates. I hope I'm not losing you. But let's talk about Kamma Pachayo. So Kamma, how does Kamma Pachayo work? This is quite well known, the dependent origination, right? If someone were to ask me, yesterday we talked about aging. Why do we age? Then I talk about how aging, there's a social, psychological experience, but there's also biology. And the biology experience is that the genomes are unstable the moment you're born. Every time it divide, there are less time it will divide. There's a biological clock to it. So in ancient time, why do we age? It's because we are born. Why are we born? It's because we exist in the samsara. If you exist in the samsara, you have to be born somewhere. Why do we exist in the samsara? Because the karma is still active. There's a karma, there's still a visional coming force. Like sometimes just now we wanted to offer. If somebody frustrate, we will just skirt around and continue to offer. That is karma. Okay. Like I want to give a Dhamma talk, and then if I find that this one doesn't work, that one doesn't work, very frustrating, I'll be a bit irritated. Of course, I'm not very irritated. I'm just saying that is the force of karma. Okay. We want to do something, we don't want to be frustrated, even if it's wholesome things. So because of the force of karma, you continue with this samsara. Whatever we do, there's an underlining subconscious, so you may not know this, that you want to continue to exist. Okay, so there's this existence becoming. Why do we have this becoming? Are we in existence? Why do we have karmic force? It's because of clinging. Clinging is a kind of addiction. It's due to repeated craving. Why is that craving? It's because you experience something that you like. There's a differentiation of good and bad, like and dislike. So when there's this feeling, there'll be a certain preference, and repeated, it becomes clinging. With that, it drives our life. Whatever we do, we do not want to be frustrated. That is the karma and the becoming and so on. Why is there feeling? It's because of contact, helplessly contact. If you have eye, you cannot not have sight. You will see. You have ear, you cannot close your ear. You smell, you smell things. You taste, you have to eat in order to sustain the body. For what purpose? In order to move around. For what purpose? In order to experience. In order to experience, you have to continue to eat. So you need to work in order to find money and then get food and eat in order to see things. So all this, as long as you have this contact, you will have feeling. Why is there contact? Because of six sense spaces. Why are there six sense spaces? It's because at birth, you already have consciousness, mentality, materiality all come together, and in the mother's womb, it grows. If it's a tadpole egg, it will grow into a frog. In the Deva realm, born already, consciousness, mentality, materiality, and the six sense space already form. Human realm, it take a few weeks for the six sense spaces to form. Consciousness, mentality, they are mutually mutually conditioning. You have this, you have that, you have that, you have this, and they are mutually conditioning. And why is there consciousness at birth? Why is there birth consciousness? It's because there was karma from the past life, and that was the volitional formations. And this was rooted in ignorance. That's why only Arahant and Buddha know karma. That's why we cannot say when they give Dhamma talk, when Sariputta offer his food to a venerable who cannot eat, there is no wholesome karma, just functional, because no ignorance, no karma force. Okay? So this is dependent origination. Where is karma pachayo? It is here. Why is there rebirth linking consciousness? Because of karma. Now, as a critical thinker, I'll ask, how does karma lead to rebirth linking consciousness? When you ask a question, you study, you cannot really understand, and then you practice, especially when you practice dependent origination, you can start to see why this rebirth happened. Before that, this dying mind, the dying mind have that vision. When this vision happens, that happens, and then rebirth. The rebirth of this being is contiguous and aligned with the last stop moment, the karma ripening. But this karma ripening, how did it happen? This being is dying, the mind is very weak, all kinds of visual hallucination, all kinds of things is happening. Oh, if this is wholesome, this is a human or a deva. If this is unwholesome, this one is a ghost or a frog or a bird. Then you start to see, where is the link? This is karma and this is it. This is a karmic force. You have insight, but you cannot explain. So this is karma pachayo. Okay? Here is also karma pachayo. So there is karmic force of, as I mentioned, the subconscious need to live, subconscious need to be around people. So whatever we do, you can say all your lofty ideals, but it is always just so that you can be loved and liked, respected, to be connected with a family, to be praised by your community, and so on. So there's this need to belong, to be around, and we do not know this even. And then because of that, we continue to exist. And why is karma, but why is karma pachayo? I was explaining about how death happens. So as a doctor, I've seen a lot of people dying. Okay, some of them dementia, they cannot talk, but sometimes they can talk. They can call up their mother's name, talk about their family. One of them was telling me his mom is there. He's talking to the mom. She's wearing white, but the face is very smiling. Then I would just say, "Oh, very good. Let's not disturb it. There's no need to give a medicine. This is fine." So what happened when we die? Our mind becomes very weak. Why? Our blood pressure is low, our oxygen level is low. Usually we have pneumonia, stroke, heart attack, heart failure, kidney failure, all sorts of reasons why we die. Whatever diseases, they are already passé, not important. The most important thing is that it affects the brain. How did it affect the brain? It affects the lung and the heart, or the accumulation of poisons because kidney failure. And then at that time, the mind is very weak. And so we become very helpless at this stage. And we are now totally surrendering to the forces from the past. And then we start to see a vision of flowers. We don't know why this vision of flowers, but maybe one day, if you have very deep concentration, you study what is flower, and you start to see the story behind the flower. You were offering the flower to the Buddha. Or maybe you start to see the light. And then if you're not sure why you see the light, you can check the mind of your past self and start to see that there is a natural tendency for this past person to be mindful on the breath until it is very bright. Or why is there fire? Then you check the heart. The heart is very restless, a lot of fear. And between the fire and an image, you start to see a killing karma. Okay. Then you start to see this. Why did this happen? Because the mind is very weak before we pass away. Then our mind helplessly, the whole life flashed before us. A lot of authors like to say this. There's a certain truth to that. It's not like the whole life passed, but we keep, because we have been lying in bed for a while, there's nothing, we can't go to our handphone and swipe, okay? We just close our eyes and we think of past things, images. Sometimes it feels very real. It's like a vivid dream. We're reliving it, talking to the old persons, and then killing again. See the Buddha again. Remember Nalanda, remember the mind. And then immediately we see the image. And then we start to have the mind of Nalanda. Oh, that's so peaceful. I wish all of us could die with that kind of mind. It is so good. So there are all these things keep happening. So this is the forces of karma, karmic force. Where do they come from? Okay, we do our whole lives, we commit a lot of karma. And what are the underlying motivations? It is always ignorance, craving, and clinging. We may twist and evolve and fashion and edit it to say that it is for the sake of all beings, for spreading the Buddha Sasana, and so on and so forth. That is true too. But the motivation why we are good people, why we are wholesome people, is because there is a need to continue this warmth with humans. I mean, that's one example. A lot of us may not realize it. Even in the mother's womb, we have attachment to the mother's womb. And when we are being born, it is a traumatic experience. And then when we are being brought back to the mother's arms again, there was happy feeling again, and there's a lot of attachment to the human womb. And it drives us to be who we are a lot of time. And then this make us good people, wholesome people. We don't kill, we don't steal and all that. Huh? But of course, this is just one example, but you can know the drift. So because of these motivations and the various kinds of karma, stupid people, in order to have wholesome feeling, they do stupid things such as stealing, such as cheating. They don't know that you only gain, if you're lucky, you win it and then you get what you want. But at your deathbed, this will come and haunt you. Okay. So because, and then wise people like us, we know if you want something, you don't cheat. You do it properly. You follow the rules, follow the law, and follow the civilization of the day. Yeah? Don't steal, don't kill. Don't steal, don't kill is a civilization of all human realm. So we do that, and then because of that, what we wish come true. If you are do wholesome things, then you'll be born as a human. Some of us are human, but we enjoy a lot of great lifestyles. I don't mind being a deva. Then because you have enough money, money means karma, you can go to anyone all the way to Paranimita Vasavati heaven. Okay. For Buddhists, if you're not an arahant this life, you can be a human again, or Tabatingsa, or Tusita, because this place a lot of arahants, a lot of enlightened beings, you can continue to learn. Okay? But if you practice deep concentration until jhana, and in the last thought moment, like you just automatically there's a light, and then you attain to jhana, then you can actually be reborn in the Brahma realm. And if you practice immaterial Brahma realms, you can go to the immaterial sphere, which is one of the disasters. Because you live a long, long life, no eye, no ear. Even Maitreya Buddha came around, you cannot see or hear the Dhamma. Okay? Then you reborn in any parts of the realms of existence as a result. So, in the scheme of samsara, one life after a life after life, a human life of 100 years is just a split second. Human life, animal life, animal life, animal life, goes, human, deva, Brahma, deva, human, goes, continuously like this. So the most important determinant of experience is where are you born? If you're born as a human, you have human experience. You have human objects that strike your eye, strike your ear. In the whole 100 years, of course, your fortunes can go up and down, also driven partially by karma, but also many other factors. But the most important determinant of your experience is that you're born as a human. So human life has human lived experience. Non-humans would have non-animals, humans lived experience. So this existence is really the most crucial. That's why in the Buddhist teachings, we emphasize a lot on karma. Next, we talk about aramanapachayo, the object conditioning. I don't know whether you notice, when you come to Nalanda, all of us become very wholesome. Then go back home or go to your workplace, you're shouting and screaming and all that thing. So this is object conditioning. It is a skillful thing to place wholesome object, have a good design, have aircon. Imagine it's very hot. Oh, it's different. The object of the body makes your mind different. Okay. You can make use of this in stress management. I'll talk about it later. But the object is really important. How do we manage our tension? So look at this picture. So this person, there's a heart base, there's an eye base, ear, nose, tongue, and body, can see and smell and whatever the chicken, and then listen to the music. And then because of that, the feeling will rise. So you can see that while in the larger scheme of things, our experience is shaped by the karma, but in the short term, it's whatever that hit your eye, ear, nose, and so on. Okay? Your feeling and your emotion is related to what you see or hear. But it's not just that. When we see something, because of your past experience, you can remember something else. Like now, if I'm telling you about aramanapachayo, about object conditioning, you may be listening to this, but you may recall your past experience. You have another object. The object could be a person. It could be an incident in the office. It could be an experience that you had 10 years ago. And with that object, you have another set of chain reaction, another mind coming in with the different feelings, different perceptions, and all that. So this is object conditioning. Upanisaya Pachayo is the most interesting. Upanisaya Pachayo, because it is more than just the five aggregates conditioning. It is everything else. The object decisive support and the proximity decisive support is similar to the other conditioning, but it is a natural decisive support that is something like to talk about because it is related to the five laymen story. Natural decisive support, what are they? There is a wide relation. All the past mental and physical phenomena strongly efficacious for experience in a future time. They can be conventions, concepts. What do I mean by concepts? We know that, say, the politics is a concept, okay? Or love is a concept. Relationship is a concept. So all these concepts, what is relationship? It's actually human to human, and then the human is an object for this human is an object of the other human, and there can be mental phenomenon of metta, karuna, or aversion, and so on. So these are the ultimate reality. But this whole thing, we human beings, we label it with a conventional term called relationship. So relationship can also influence us, okay? So concepts, rather than just the ultimate reality conditioning. So this one is very user-friendly to those of us who don't like study like ultimate realities. But so for example, why are you happy and energetic? If you really decipher the cause, of course, ultimately it's good karma and born as a human and so on. But it's also because you're healthy. That's why you're happy and energetic. That is why yesterday we talked about it. To age well, you need to have health. Okay, so that is still Dhamma, but we're coming to the level of user-friendly, day-to-day conventional terms, very practical day-to-day things that is related to our current community society norms. So health lead to happiness and energy, illness lead to unhappiness and laziness. Habits create future habits. So this person sleeping is because for a long time he's been sleeping. So because of that, even in this life, though it's in front of the Buddha, the past habit of sleepiness is too strong, then fall asleep. So similarly, when Venerable Shariputra jumped across the puddle to the layperson, oh, this is so unbecoming of a monk or an arahant. But Venerable Shariputra was just doing something very habitual to him. So the implication is a lot that we can't really judge anyone unless we can read their minds, how they behave. Okay. So past habits, future habits, past failure, future successes. So failure can lead to successes. Why are these people successful? Because he learned from past mistakes. So these are all conceptual. It's not five aggregates already. These are concepts. Past parami, it makes you easier to practice the Dhamma. I will be explaining parami later because today's talk is merit and parami, but it's all related to dependent origination teaching. Okay, so past parami, like why are some people, they listen to a Dhamma talk, immediately it makes sense to them. Some people, oh, it doesn't make sense. Some people, you ask them to sit mindful on the breath, immediately they can sit for 2 hours. But some people, mindful on the breath, keep moving, it's such a struggle. So it is about what kind of temperament they have molded in their past. Okay. And then past inspiration, past aspiration, future faith, and career. Why are you who you are? Why are you actively serving in a Buddhist community? Why are you taking a position of a leader? Why are you always not wanting to be a leader? Why are you always like to speak in front of the audience? And why are some people always prefer to do the background work? Why are some people doctors? And why some doctors want to be a restaurateur? Why are some people, they find a way to become, because of childhood, they couldn't, but in the old age, they took a PhD in something and became very successful. So past inspiration, aspiration, future faith, and career, if we can only see like a psychologist's couch, but not just a recollection of this life, but look into all our past lives, a lot of questions will be answered. The last conditionality I want to discuss is atipachayo. This is a catch-all. Okay, what is atipachayo? Ati means presence. How does this lead to this? It leads to this by merely being present. For example, in all material phenomenon, earth, water, fire, and wind always come together. Why is there earth? Because there's water, fire, and wind. Why is there wind? Because there's earth, fire, and water. So because they are present, they are here. So same. So these are all in the realm of five aggregates, so not so conventional. So it is really science of the mind and matter. It is like chemistry. I mix these two together, this will happen. It's like physics. When this happens, it will just do this. So it is the science of mind and matter. In a way, the thing to note is helplessness. When this happens, this will actually happen. Another word, science of mind and matter is also known as nature. It is just nature. If you don't accept it, you're just making it hard for yourself. Okay, so this is 道法自然, right? So this is Tao, this is nature. So we want to answer tough questions using this dependent origination knowledge. How do we apply this understanding in making the best out of our lives? And what is dukkha? How does it arise? What is no dukkha? And how do we make an end of dukkha? So this is dukkha, right? This is dukkha. Why did this happen? Because of birth. So this is dukkha. But why did this happen? Because we want. Why did this happen? Because we want and there's karma. And why do we want? Because of clinging and craving. Why? Because feeling happens helplessly due to contact, helplessly due to sense spaces, which is helpless because of consciousness and mentality. Why did this happen? Because there are creation of causes and because of this primitive primordial ignorance. So this helplessness is dukkha. But in short, the five aggregates of clinging. Five aggregates is found where? Five aggregates is vijnana aggregate, sankhara aggregates. These are sankhara. Rupa aggregates, okay? Perception is found here. Sanya aggregates as well. Sanya is also, perception, sankhara is also here, But within this, sankhara is also found in mentality. So these are the five aggregates of clinging, and that is dukkha. It is also found here. These are the conventional truth, but you break it down to ultimate reality, it is these five aggregates. So five aggregates, if you study the sutta, five aggregates refer to five aggregates of past, present, and future. So in the Buddha's eyes, it's timeless. Okay, five aggregates means five aggregates of past as well, future also, present also. It's just that when we practice samadhi, we keep the mind to the present, but it doesn't mean we ignore the past and the future. It's only through the past and future we understand dependent origination, we develop wisdom. Okay. So further explanation, how do people have certain preferences? Why do we have certain kind of character? Why are people progress faster, slower? Why do arahants behave like monkeys? Okay, Kamma is driven by ignorance and attachment, as I explained. Being human or not, rich or not, beautiful or not, influential or not, and so on, determined by karma. And these fortunes determine largely what you experience as object that bombard you day to day. And because of the object contact with the six sense spaces trigger the chain reactions of thought processes with feelings, perceptions, sometimes wholesome root, unwholesome root. That's where the karma is wholesome or not within the mind. And how do we make sense out of all these objects that bombard the mind and the unwholesome and wholesome things that happen to the mind? It depends on your natural decisive support conditions, such as your habit, such as your state of health, such as your previous life's career, your family in the previous lives. What kind of beings were you? Cause you to behave in a certain way. Presence condition is the part that we call it nature. The five regates congregation one another. It explains the helplessness of our existence. Okay. And furthermore, if we know the cause and effects, we begin to have a glimpse of the levers of control for stress reduction, for development of resilience, and ending dukkha. It's similar to a farmer planting, creating a garden. In order for the things to grow faster, a stupid gardener will pull the plant. A wise gardener will study the soil and observe whether is it due to water, or is it the weather, or is it the fertilizer, and then will act on the causes and let presence condition, ati pachayo, take its effect, the science of agriculture take its effect. So when we know the cause and conditions, in a way, if we know the science of the mind and matter, if we know the causes and conditions of economics, politics, sociology, psychology, medicine, health, we work on causes and we can control. But otherwise, there is no control. And that is one of the reasons why we talk about dukkha. But the Buddha found how can we make an end of dukkha instead of following this helpless samsara. So how do we apply? Karmic actions determines our fortune or misfortunes within this life and subsequent lives in samsara. And we know objects such as friends, activities, mind objects. Avoid bad encounters, replace good with bad one with good encounters. It helps us manage stress. So you know when you're stressed, your mind has an object. It usually is an imagination. It causes you to be stressed. If you know how to change the object, go to the parks or come here and see the Buddha. Well, your stress is still there, but you look at the Buddha, the mind is different. Another way to change it is the object is a concept. You use a trick to change a concept. You can change the mind. Like you think that, what if, okay, what if I forgot what I want to say? Oh, then I get fear, right? But if I know how to control the object, I can say, what if I remember? Or what if it doesn't matter, you know? Then I change my mind, it doesn't matter. Then my mind will just go in the direction that it doesn't matter. I'll go in the direction that I may not forget also, you know? Then the mind, the stress suddenly resolve. Okay, so this how you can make use of object. A lot of people use it without knowing. A lot of people go into addictive behavior because it gives them stress relief. They don't know. They were just trying to run away from the displeasure of boredom, of restlessness, or a worry related to something that they cannot solve. Decisive support is about knowing how to control our life stream by the power of habits. Okay, so decision make us do a certain action, but if you can repeat the action repeatedly, it becomes a habit. It will change your character, and then it becomes second nature. And then for example, if you take care of your health, your security, relationships, and so on, you create the conditions for good karma to ripen. Okay. And lastly, presence. This is a part that it is nature. Okay. Accept our conditions without aversion, respect the forces of nature, but make use of the signs of existence and strive for nibbana. Because if you don't strive, just carry on like this, history will keep repeating itself. You may not remember it, but one life after another, it is not just boring, it is pointless. And you suffer and you don't know. You only have traces of trauma in your life. You don't even know why the trauma is there. So developing right view is understanding this dependent origination and put in our effort and make the best out of life using the above knowledge. Right effort. In the Vibhanga Sutta, the Buddha described right effort as generates the desire for the non-arising of unarisen, evil, unwholesome states, make an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind and strives. He generates the desire to abandon. So the first part is about unwholesome. He wants to abandon, he wants to prevent them from coming up. But to the wholesome state, he wants to generate desire for the arising of unarisen wholesome. You want to develop your wholesome states and you want to maintain your wholesome state. Now, right effort means arise the wholesome state and maintain wholesome state. What are wholesome states? They're altogether three: punya, parami, and bodhipakkhya dhamma. Merits, perfections, and the requisites for enlightenment. So what are merits? Merits are good karma, okay, governed by the law of karma, so they are good karma. Their foundations for meritorious actions are dana, sila, and bhavana, but in the commentary text, it is expanded into 10 meritorious deeds. Dana, sila, bhavana, reverence or respect. Like when we come here, we pay respect to the Buddha. When we see a Sangha member, we actually pay respect to the Sangha member. Service, helping others, is wholesome karma, is meritorious, right? Sharing of merits is merit, is itself a merit. Rejoicing in others' merits is a merit in itself. Preaching and teaching the Dhamma is a merit. Listening to Dhamma is a merit. And when we straighten our wrong views, it is also meritorious. So all these are merits. So this is the first wholesome thing that the Buddha asks us to do, to develop or to maintain, and that is right effort. What about parami? Parami is sometimes translated by the Mahayana Buddhists as perfections. So it is like sculpting slowly but surely to create an enlightened being. Okay, so that's parami. It is not just for the bodhisattva who wants to be a Sammasambuddha. In the Theravada tradition, all of us who would aspire for Nibbana need to practice the parami, because Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Moggallana also practice parami. Okay, there are three extent of practice. Only the Sammasambuddha practice all three extent all the way to the sacrifice of the life. It is akin to building one's character and temperament, worthy of being an enlightened being over our many, many lives in samsara. Where did you find it in the Pali Canon? It is found in Buddha Vangsa. In the Buddha Vangsa, the Buddha visited Kapaliwatu, his hometown, for the first time after Nibbana. He was with Sariputta at that time. So he told Sariputta the story of ascetic Sumedha and the 10 parami that he had to practice. So what are qualities to become a Sammasambuddha in that particular scriptures in Buddha Vangsa? He had to practice the highest of the 10 paramis. What are parami? Parami are noble qualities, such as, I'll give you the list later, but all these qualities are accompanied by compassion, the wish to alleviate suffering. Skillful means some wisdom of knowing how to apply it, and it's not tainted by craving, conceit, and views. Craving is attachment, conceit is self-glory, views are wrong views. Wrong views either believing that there's no life after death, causes may not result in effects, or that there is an eternal soul and so on. So without any wrong views, we practice qualities such as giving with compassion and skillful means, not tainted by conceit. There are 3 levels: sacrifice material possessions in order to perfect giving, perfect sila, perfect your virtues, and so on. Or the second level is to sacrifice a bodily organ, or the third level is to sacrifice one's life. What are the 10? So these are the 10. We practice the parami of dana out of compassion and skillful means without craving, views, or conceit. And not just giving, we ourselves keep a pure behavior of the speech and mind out of compassion, out of skillful means, no conceit, no craving, and no wrong views, sila. And as we practice the parami in various status of existence or in the society that we do, we practice certain level of sacrifice, renunciation, and then we practice wisdom, seeing penetratively, not just the nature of reality, but also the causes and condition. Even as we study for our PhD, our masters, we are learning critical thinking. Energy is the energy to the unwholesome to remove or to suppress, the wholesome to develop or to maintain. That is energy. Patience is just going through thick and thin, whether your praise or your blame, you take all this in your stride and maintaining composure and acceptance. Truthfulness is despite the challenges, you do not tell a lie. You have to stay truthful and authentic. Determination is whatever you say you want to do, you keep the promise and do it, especially the promises to ourselves. Loving kindness is this unconditional acceptance of all beings as they are. Equanimity is recognizing the law of karma, that all things are not entirely within our control, and this is rising above attachment to any particular beings. Can you think of how parami are developed in daily life? So we're not doing a workshop, so I'll just tell you. Yesterday, we are talking about caring for our seniors. Say one day you find yourself being a caregiver and then you cannot go for retreat, meditation. Then you feel very frustrated. Maybe you can carry on with compassion, skillful means, non-attachment, non-conceit, no wrong view. Take all this as part of dana, sila, renunciation, okay, patience, wisdom, truthfulness, determination, metta, equanimity. So you can, even as a caregiver, can you see you need to practice patience? You have to practice wisdom. You have to practice truthfulness, determination, and so on. What about, say, dana? This one is obvious, okay? What about doing house chores? Can it be a parami? Yeah, we know that Venerable Sariputta, I like to talk about Sariputta because he's my idol, okay? So he liked to sweep the ground of Jetawara Monastery. And after, when everybody go for alms round, he will go and check just to make sure all the places are secured and nobody is left behind. Everybody go. Then he'll go as the last person. So doing house chores, if you consider whatever you're doing has a compassion to it, has a certain skillfulness to it, and there is no conceit or wrong view about it. As you sacrifice your time to do the house chores, you find that you're practicing dana. And then when you do the house chores, you're not breaking any precept. And sometimes you almost want to break precept, but you don't. That is parami of precept, parami of renunciation. When everybody can do so many things, I have to stay at home and do house chores. Truthfulness, okay? Determination, patience. What about work? Say you think, wow, this is a doctor, helping people. For me, I'm only a librarian. Librarian can practice parami too. Okay? You can keep precepts. You can offer certain things that's not really in your job description. You can practice patience, wisdom, renunciation, determination, truthfulness, equanimity, and so on. Say, you always feel that your life, you never put in effort to go and be a monk or a nun, never practice. I got a whole family, a brood of children, and chicks and cats and dogs, so many things. But you can see it as parenting is a perfection of parami too. If you have compassion, you have skillful means, and you're not intoxicated by attachment, by conceit, by wrong views. So from paramis to merits to paramis, merits is just doing good karma. But if we were to, as we practice the good karma, the 10 good karma, but see it in the context of compassion, of skillful means, without craving, without conceit, and dedicate it into the perfection of this temperament, of this being across samsara, merits become parami. It will become the supporting cause for us in the future when we are reborn, say, for example, in Tawatingsa heaven because of good karma. Then suddenly Tawatingsa heaven. And then Sakha is preaching the Dhamma. We listen and immediately we become enlightened. Okay. Sakha is an enlightened being, and there are many enlightened beings there, and then they'll sit down there and teach you anapanasati or observe your life, how did it happen? Like that, like that. Can you see the cause of ignorance? Can you see craving? Can you see clinging? Can you see karma and the karmic force? Can you see these 5 aggregates, the aggregates of a deva, the rupa, the eye door, ear door, nose door, and so on? How did the contact happen? Contact, mind, thought processes. Is that craving? Yes, there is immediate greed, but I processed it and then it became wholesome. There was gratitude. Analyze it. And then you recall like this. That's because you have built the parami to enjoy listening to the Dhamma. And when you listen to Dhamma, immediately you can understand. So our wholesome habits become our character. Our character shape our experience and decisions, and the decision and perceptions shape our destiny. And merits bring good fortune. Parami bring us suitable conditions that lead to Nibbana. And the Bodhipakya Dhamma is very long. I won't be explaining. Actually, I wanted us to touch on the 37 Bodhipakya, the 4 foundations, the 4 bases of success, right effort, 5 faculties, 5 powers, 7 factors of enlightenment, and the 8 path factors. But my friends say, oh, you add everything because they may not know. Okay, then I just add. The 4 foundations are body, feeling, mind, and Dhamma. The 4 bases are the desire, consciousness, wisdom, and energy. 4 right effort, we know already. Wholesomeness, develop and maintain. Unwholesomeness, eradicate or suppress. 5 faculties, faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom, which is the same as the 5 powers. Depends on which the immature and the mature state, and you need to balance them. 7 factors of enlightenment is mindfulness, investigation, Dhamma, energy, joy, tranquility, concentration, wisdom, equanimity. Also need to balance them. And then the Noble Eightfold Path. 12, 11, 12. We need to end at 12:30. This is the last slide. 11:30, sorry. This is the last slide. But this slide is very rich. It is another Dhammapada story. It's called The Weaver's Daughter. And it illustrates why is it so important to understand its dependent origination. The Buddha said, this world is indeed blind. Few are those who deeply see. Like the birds escaping from a net, few will go to heaven. What does the Buddha mean when he say people are blind, cannot see, and the net? What does he mean? So this story is about this girl. She was a weaver's daughter. So 3 years before this story, the Buddha came to town, and then she heard the Buddha talk about Marana Nusati, mindfulness on death, that all of us will surely die. If you were to think about all of us will surely die, and that all of us, including all the famous generals, famous prime ministers, famous presidents, everybody also pass away. Your mind can go into concentration, reflecting on the certainty of death. So she's been practicing for 3 years. And then the Buddha, one night, discovered that she's ripe for teaching. And she will go to where she is and share the Dhamma and will ask her 4 questions. At the end of it, she will become a Sotapanna. But if she did not hear the Dhamma, she will die that same day as a worldling. So the Buddha went to the place, and all the villagers were very, very happy and honored and offered dana to the Buddha. Usually, after offering of dana, the Buddha would give a Dhamma talk. But that day, the Buddha was very quiet. When the Buddha is sitting there quiet, nobody dare to utter a word. The Buddha is not giving a Dhamma talk. No, just quiet, cannot even ask. But the Buddha knows what he's doing. He's waiting for this girl to come. So when the girl heard that the Buddha is here, she wanted to listen to the Dhamma because this is her teacher. But before she can go, the father says, I have a piece of cloth that's it. I'm rushing to finish it. Bring the material and come to the workshop now. And then this girl is very scared of father because if he doesn't go now, he'll be beaten by the father. So he has to pack and have to go to, so finish the packing of the whatever she's preparing to go to the workshop. Unfortunately, cannot go straight to the dana, right? Then on the way to the workshop, she saw the communal hall. The Buddha is there. All the villagers are sitting around him, quiet. And then he saw the Buddha from a distance. The Buddha saw her from the distance. And then immediately, in front of the Buddha and not being in front of Buddha, listening to Dhamma is different feeling. Do you believe that? In front of Buddha, the feeling is different. Okay. Then you look at him, then she walk closer to the Buddha. And then she know that the Buddha wants her to come forward, then come forward and pay respect. Then the Buddha started to talk. Maiden, from where do you come? And imagine this girl, for 3 years have been practicing death meditation. And then now with the Buddha, her heart is so full of joy, but very peaceful at the same time. All the other people are invisible to her. And then the Buddha asked her this question, from where do you come? She says, I do not know, Reverend Sir. Then all the villagers, you do not know? And then the Buddha asked again, where are you going? And then she said, I do not know, Reverend Sir. And the villagers, what? You do not know? And then Buddha says, do you not know? Then she said, I know, Reverend Sir. And all the villagers are like, huh? What do you mean? And then the Buddha asked her the final question, do you know? And the answer was, I do not know, Reverend Sir. Then all the villagers were shocked, angry, intrigued, confused. So started to scold the girl, this is the Buddha. How come you talk nonsense in front of the Buddha? Then the Buddha actually was very pleased with the answer. And the Buddha asked, when I ask you, where do you come from? Why do you say you do not know? And then the girl says, I'm sure the Buddha knows I came from my house. But when the Buddha asked me, where do I come from? I am quite sure the Buddha is not referring to that. The Buddha must be referring to, where was I before I was born? I do not know. Then the Buddha was very happy with the answer. When I ask you, where are you going? Why do you say you do not know? When the Buddha asked me, where am I going? Surely it's not not about whether I'm going to my father's workshop, because the Buddha would know. The Buddha asked me, where am I going? Refers to, where will I be reborn when I die? I do not know. And the third question the Buddha asked was, do you not know? Then she said, surely you're referring to, do I not know that I will die? I've been practicing this for 3 years. I know I will die. Do you know? Surely the Buddha means, when will I die? Of course, I do not know. Then the Buddha says, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And then all the villagers were very affected by this conversation. That's when the Buddha said this verse. This world is indeed blind. Few are those who deeply see. Like the birds escaping from a net, few will go to heaven. What is this net? What is this blindness? It is we think that human life is everything. It's like everything is so serious. Okay? What is truly important and serious, we do not know. About karma, about habits, about objects, about the helplessness of the science of mind and matter. Yeah. So if by understanding this, I hope there's a deeper meaning in what you all do here. Merits, paramis, and all these are the conditions for us to perfect the 37 bodhipakkhiyas, and may all of us realize nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu.